Good morning, church. It's been a while, but I've been watching Billy, so I think this is the move. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Michael. I've been gone a while. I work in the travel industry, and unfortunately, I get scheduled to work a lot of weekends. My wife and I often joke that she should get a t-shirt made that says, "Yes, I'm married. Yes, he's a pilot. No, I don't know when he'll be home." So fortunately, home today and just delighted to be with you. If I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, I have been a long-time member of this church. 30 plus years, minus a gap in the middle to, go grow up elsewhere and get married and then come back. I am presently serving as one of our elders, and even though our physical presence may not be very close, I just want you to know that you are not far from my mind and my heart, as we regularly pray for you and with you. Loneliness is a significant risk for health problems, for illness, and for longevity. Those who are lonely die earlier. They have more physical health problems. In fact, there's a mountain of evidence that the risk of loneliness to your health is similar to smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. This is one of the significant findings of Robert Waldinger and Mark Schultz, directors of the Harvard Study of Adult Development, which is an 85-year-long running study on what makes for a happy and healthy life, from which they co-authored a book called The Good Life, Lessons from the World's Longest Scientific Study of Happiness. They began as two independent studies, actually, back in 1938, and they were both seeking to answer what made young people thrive into adulthood. It was two studies that didn't know about each other initially. One was a study of 19-year-old Harvard College undergraduates trying to figure out how are they going to continue to be successful, and the other was a group of boys from some of the most troubled homes in Boston's poorest neighborhoods. The first study sought to record how the best and the brightest grew up, and the other study looked at juvenile delinquency and how some of those, despite the odds stacked against them, still stayed on good developmental paths. The studies have used lots of different methods to collect a very robust data set. They've done kind of standardized questionnaires, they've done interviews, they've done home visits. They have more recently done digital recordings of interactions between partners so they can actually see what's going on in the private space when you think you're not being watched, but these people have given their consent so they know they're being watched. But anyway, they're being watched. And more recently, other like brain scans and controlled lab tests and such. So it's a very robust data set. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Originally, there were about 724 young men in the study. And it's come to include their wives, and it, in fact, includes a second generation. And because it's so long, you might think, well, a bunch of people probably dropped out, right? An astounding 84% are still part of the study. And it's ongoing, so this continues. Which leads us to a second significant finding from this 85 years and still running Harvard study on what makes for a happy and healthy life. Mark Schultz, who comments on the findings both from this study and others that corroborate it, says, "What we find is that relationships keep us happier and healthier throughout our lifespan." It's as simple as that. It's all kinds of relationships we're talking about, not just your closest partnership. For example, the person you're married to. But it's relationships that include friends and relatives and people you work with. They're all important in keeping us healthy and happy. It's a fascinating area of study with lots of questions yet to be answered. Robert Waldinger, the other co-author, comments with some measure of wonder. He says, it makes sense that if you have better relationships, you're happier. But how could good relationships actually make it less likely for you to get coronary artery disease or type 2 diabetes? Like, how could that be? We don't know the answer yet, but it's interesting. As people steeped in God's story, the importance of relationship to our well-being should come as absolutely no surprise. We know that our triune God, Father and Son and Spirit, is by nature a loving, self-giving community, and that we were created in God's image as relational beings. We have in us a deep longing to connect, to see and to be seen, to be loved, warts and all, which is part of why we're beginning a sermon series called Connecting. I get to introduce it, not Billy. So, Billy, I'm going to tell you what you're preaching the next few. I'm just kidding. We're starting this series called Connecting. We're going to spend a few weeks looking at how our faith speaks into building and maintaining healthy relationships, all kinds of relationships, what beliefs and habits and practices can help us build and maintain that life-sustaining, health-giving relationship. If loneliness is a risk to our health, then relationships, all kinds of relationships, are the best kind of preventative medicine. So why is it difficult to connect? Why, even in God's church, a community called to reflect God's relational nature, is it hard to connect? I'm sure there's dozens of reasons it's tough to connect, but here's two reasons that connecting can be hard. One is that we live in a world that has structures, both visible and invisible, that make connecting a challenge. Robert Putnam, an American political scientist, raised some of these challenges when he noted that participants in civic groups, churches, clubs, and neighborhood life had declined. The title of his book, Bowling Alone, comes from the paradoxical decline of bowling leagues, which got less and less even as individual bowlers increased. Among the factors leading to this decline, Putnam notes, increased mobility and the rise of television and digital media. There's lots of others, but these are the two I want to bring up. Think about it. Increased mobility can be a barrier to connecting. How many of you were born and raised in Calgary? How many of you were not born and raised in Calgary? Okay. I'm among the second group. I know I held my hand up both times. It was just to trick you. Okay, so I'm part of that second group. Not born, kind of raised here. While mobility has helped many people escape famine and war and tough situations, moving also comes at a relational cost. It dislocates us from our roots, from our family. Also, just on a practical reality, we have cars and we've got public transit, which means we don't even have to work or play or shop or worship in the spaces that we live. And so we get spread thin across many communities, which can lead to shallow connections. Our cities are designed around this. They've got highways instead of pathways and workplaces well outside our neighborhoods. We've got garages instead of front porches, right? These make it tough to connect. Well before the advent of the smartphone, television had already begun to erode connection. Instead of going out to a sock hop or the bowling alley, I'm guessing I feel like I stand right in the middle of what a sock hop is. I've never been to one. I've just heard of them. Kids, ask your parents. Or maybe, maybe. Right, I'm the parent now, aren't I? Okay, ask your grandparents. Oh, man. Instead of going out to one of those with other people, entertainment became privatized, right? And now it's pocket-sized, right? Add Netflix and a set of wireless earbuds and even the connection of arguing over who gets to hold the remote or what we're going to watch, that connection disappears. Add into that isolating world of earbuds and a private screen and social media companies that engineer software to capture more and more and more of your attention by feeding you more and more and more of what you want, even if it's not what you need. This makes it really hard to connect with real people in the real world who aren't neatly vetted by the algorithm to be compatible with your likes and your dislikes. Don't get me wrong, technology has also opened up some good doors for connecting. But taken as a whole, it's not without significant challenge. Putnam concludes that the result of all this is a more disconnected society marked by lower trust and weaker community ties. In short, it's a world in which it's harder to connect. The other reason it's hard to connect is very personal. Each of us is a sinful, wounded person. What I'm trying to say is wherever you go, there you are. It doesn't matter where you move, you take you with you. Did you follow me? Doesn't matter if you go to Australia or you go to the UK or you move to the other side of the city, you take you with you. Your baggage comes with you, good and bad. Your hopes, your dreams, your nightmares, your hurts, your language and culture and family patterns, all of this goes with you. At one really practical level, this makes it difficult for us to connect because it takes effort and humility to say, I'm sorry, can you say that again, as we listen carefully through each other's different dialects and accents. But at a deeper level, our learned relational patterns can get in the way of connecting. They're driven by deep beliefs that often lie at a subconscious level, having been learned and absorbed during our formative years, and they can get in the way of connecting. For example, if you were raised in a family where your parents were physically present but emotionally unavailable, or where your feelings were ignored, minimized, or not noticed, then you might have this deep sense that your needs don't matter, which might lead you towards emotional distance by avoiding vulnerable conversations because you change the topic, or by being the strong one who never needs any sort of support. It makes it hard to connect with people. Or if your caregivers were sometimes present and sometimes not, maybe for pretty rough things like mental health issues or addictions or divorce, but maybe for things like your job just keeps you on the road. If your caregivers were sometimes present and sometimes not, then you might have a deep anxiety about relationships, or a fear of abandonment, or difficulty trusting others to stay, which might lead you to become attached to people very quickly, like clingy even. Or you might test people to see if they'll stay. Makes it hard to connect. Or if you grew up in a home where love and approval were tied to behavior, achievement, or compliance, you might believe that love is conditional. That unless you perform, unless you behave, unless you do well, you don't deserve to be accepted. And so you might overcommit, saying yes when you really want or need to say no. Or you might take criticism as a threat to your worth. It makes it hard to connect. And unfortunately, hurt people hurt people. We carry these crazy, unintentional burdens our parents and caregivers placed on us, and we make mistakes. And we say hurtful things, and we act out in destructive ways. And this community, even though we call it the church, is not exempt. All of this makes connecting hard because we're wounded and sinful people living in a broken and sinful world. And so before we try to even respond to that mess, before we start to work through our own woundedness, we need to let God speak first. Yeah? Let's let God speak first. His presence, His unrelenting, never-ending, always loving presence is God's first word to us, and we need to hear it first. Even when God's chosen people, Israel, had broken all the laws and all the covenants, had turned their backs on God, he says, I will surely gather them from all the lands where I banished them in my furious anger and great wrath. I will bring them back to this place and let them live in safety. They will be my people, and I will be their God. I will make them I'll make an everlasting covenant with them. I will never stop doing good to them. This is God saying to his wayward and messy people, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It will be an everlasting covenant. I will establish them and increase their numbers, and I will put my sanctuary among them forever. My dwelling place will be with them. I will be their God, and they will be my people. And indeed, as we know, God's word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. This is God's first word to us. His loving presence. And when God becomes flesh, he walks with us. He eats with us. He talks with us. He knows us. And he receives us as we are. No conditions, warts and all. Offering his loving presence to us. And because God has drawn near, that means that we are chosen and that we are loved. This unconditional love is captured in God's words at Jesus' baptism. You are my son whom I love. In you I am well pleased. Before he preached a sermon, before he healed the sick, before he'd done anything deserving of anything, God says, I love you. And this is God's foundational, life-giving word to each of us before we have done anything. Before we entered the world, before we uttered a cry, before we performed or produced. You are my son, whom I love. In you I am well pleased. You are my daughter, whom I love. In you I am well pleased. Henry Nouwen calls this being the beloved. And knowing this belovedness in every fiber of your being is a crucial foundation for healing our wounds and opening up the possibility of connecting well. Nouwen was a Catholic priest who eventually gave up teaching at Yale and Harvard to live in the L'Arche Daybreak community in Ontario. There he lived and he served among people with intellectual disabilities. And there he discovered an embodied love that transcended eloquent ideas and theories about love. He discovered an embodied love that transcended his own woundedness. In his book, Life of the Beloved, Nouwen writes a letter to his longtime friend, Fred. Fred was a secular Jew who identified with the culture and history of Jewishness, but held none of its beliefs. And Fred pleaded with him to write something about the spiritual life for him and his friends. And so, 4 years before Nouwen died, after a lifetime of study and prayer and letting God's loving presence heal his wounds, he writes, Fred, all I want to say to you is you are the beloved. And all I hope is that you can hear these words as spoken to you with all the tenderness and force that love can hold. My only desire is to make these words reverberate in every corner of your being. You are the beloved. You're probably thinking that claiming this belovedness as the core truth of your existence and your life is not easy, and you'd be right. Criticism and rejection, abandonment, loneliness, they all underscore this powerful lie. I am a nobody. I am no good. I deserve to be pushed aside, forgotten, rejected, and abandoned. And it's precisely at these moments, Nouwen writes, every time you feel hurt, offended, rejected, you have to dare to say to yourself, these feelings, strong as they may be, are not telling me the truth about myself. The truth, even though I cannot feel it right now, is that I am the chosen child of God, precious in God's eyes, called the beloved from all eternity and held safe in an everlasting embrace. You are beloved, brothers and sisters. God's solution to the world's brokenness, to your woundedness, is to draw near with his unrelenting, never-ending, always loving presence. He loves you and he delights in you. And when you accept that God, who sees you, I mean that in every possible way, right? What do we mean when we say see you? It's not just, okay, you're wearing a black shirt and blue jeans and you got something in your pocket. That's not what we mean. See you. I know you. When God sees you, in the quiet moments when you don't want to be seen, he sees you, okay? That's what we're talking. When God, who sees you, draws near to you and calls you his beloved, it changes you. When you receive the truth of your belovedness in God's presence, it enables you to receive others in their belovedness, because God's love is a love that includes all people, and it opens up new horizons. We're going to watch a brief clip from a movie called The Martian Child. It's based on a true story about David, a recently widowed science fiction writer who adopts a boy named Dennis. Dennis, who's been abandoned multiple times in his life, feels so isolated from others that he believes he's from Mars. Let's take a look at this. In the scene here, we see a powerful moment of transformation. Dennis, expecting rejection, is met instead with perfect love for that moment. David's response created a whole new relational space for Dennis. Just as David invited Dennis into a new relational space, God is inviting us into a new relational space with him. It's a space where nothing can separate you from his love. It is a space that is created by the blood of Christ, where nothing can ever change the way he feels about you. Henry Nouwen writes to his friend Fred, "The greatest gift my friendship can give to you is the gift of your belovedness. I can give that gift only insofar as I have claimed it for myself." Isn't that what friendship is all about? Giving to each other the gift of our belovedness. And this is one of life's great mysteries, that we can receive the divine blessing of belovedness through each other. There have been a few times I've been conscious of receiving this blessing of belovedness through people around me. Maybe you've had a similar kind of experience. On a few occasions, it's been those who have sat with me and heard me speak of my shame and my guilt and the terrible things that I've said or done. And in those moments, while I'm telling myself I am a nobody and I am no good and I deserve to be pushed aside and forgotten, rejected, and abandoned, my friends have just stayed with me. They patiently, steadfastly reminded me with their presence that the truth about me is that I'm a beloved child of God. Precious, called the beloved from all eternity, and held safe in an everlasting embrace. And sometimes I'm given the gift of my belovedness through the thoughtful and kind words of my wife. This sits on my desk in front of me all the time. And yes, my desk is that messy. Written on notes, tucked in a box of Ferrero Rocher. The note on top said this: "Things I love about you." And it broke me. And it still breaks me in the best possible way. Because every gentle, kind, and loving word, it breaks my wounded identity that I repeat to myself about my unloveliness and my unworthiness. And it opens up for me just a little bit the possibility to receive my true identity as being the beloved. So how can we let the truth of our belovedness permeate our lives? Just before I get into it, I'm going to say it's not a short process. I've been at this for a long time, and not half as long as some of you. It's a long process. But first, I would suggest to you regular prayer. This is not so much the talking kind of prayer, but the becoming silent in order to listen kind of prayer. It's the becoming still in order to listen to the voice that says good things about me. The identity-warping, soul-destroying lies that we carry are deep and pernicious, and so we need to spend enough time becoming aware of God's loving presence that we can hear and feel that small, intimate voice saying, "You are my beloved child, and on you my favor rests. I don't just love you, I like you." It might be helpful to memorize maybe a small part of Scripture, to repeat it again and again, so that listening to the voice of love shifts from a kind of a passive waiting to more of an active sort of attentiveness. Second, I want to say community. Look for people and places where you're reminded of your deepest identity as the beloved. Connect with people who remind you that you are loved. Make room for people who remind you that you are loved. Be present for people who need to know they are loved. As you claim and reclaim the truth of being beloved, you're going to discover a desire to reveal to others their belovedness. It's something we can't, it's the way God's belovedness works. It's not like you get it and nobody else gets it. It's like everybody gets it, and once you realize it, you want to help other people find it. It's in them too, that they are beloved. It's a beautiful gift that we can give to one another, but in doing this, we need to remember that this is not about prying. This is not about peddling an idea that you heard in a sermon one time at somebody else's expense. It's not about forcing yourself into somebody's space. It's not about forcing intimacy on another person, pushing them into relational space they don't want to be in, okay? Helping somebody else find their own belovedness, revealing to others their belovedness is about receiving them as we have experienced being received by God. It's about practicing patient, self-giving, self-sacrificing presence. It is being sensitive and respectful of the relational space we find ourselves in. It's receiving others without expectation, without agenda, just allowing the love that we have received to flow outward and name their belovedness in hopes that they might find themselves beloved as well. Because God sees us, warts and all, receives us as we are, and calls us his beloved, we are transformed so that we might receive each other and share this gift of belovedness. A connecting presence is God's beloved receiving God's beloved. Would you pray with me? God, only you know how deep the lies that we hold onto are. And if everyone in the universe, you're the only one that truly sees us. And so in this moment, we say thank you. Say thank you for not treating us as we feel we ought to be, as we deserve, but for treating us as you see us. Every day, O Lord, would you please grant us the grace to know a little bit more how deeply you love us. And as that love settles on us and works through us, help us, O God, to be little lights in this dark world, calling out your belovedness everywhere we can. We pray in your name.